Hey, this is Ross Richie. I am the CEO and the founder of Boom Studios, and you would know us from Something is Killing the Children, Once and Future, Seven Secrets. We Only Find Them When They're Dead, and the smash hit Keanu Reeves series BRZRKR. So my guest today is the co-writer of BRZRKR. You would know him as Matt Kindt. He's a genius who's Eisner Award nominated for creating incredible series like PISTOLWHIP, Super Spy, and Mind Management, which we get into in this interview. So don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe. And without any further ado, here's Mr. Matt Kindt. So okay, so let's get to PISTOLWHIP then.
Yeah, so PISTOLWHIP, I realized I had gotten to the point where I'd been doing so many pages of those mini comics and then working a day job, and I was like, I can't. I started to get tired, you know. It was like it's a lot of work, and I was like, this next thing I do, this has to be. I think I'm ready, you know. I saw PISTOLWHIP, I saw enough there where I was like, this isn't. It's better. It's better than the worst thing out there, which is my bar. I was like, just, you know, like I think the stories for sure there. I just wanted to. It needed to be something that, like, when you looked at it, you didn't want to just close it, you know. And
that's a good barometer.
yeah, right. Like it's a low bar, but and what's funny is like I'm picky, so it's like I hate so much, like so uh, and I know that when I look at my thing, I was like, I know, would I pick this up? Would I keep reading it? You know, and so I had to reach that bar, which is I don't hate it, you know. So uh, I wrote this book. I wrote PISTOLWHIP, and then drew the whole thing, and then and then I can't tell the story without like telling a little bit of the story of my first collaborator, Jason Hall, who's credited as co-writer, um, and and, uh, and there's interesting stuff there too. But so I'd written the graphic novel PISTOLWHIP, and I had drawn it, and I met Jason online. We were fans of Andrew Bird, and so we started emailing, and I was like, hey, look, you want to read my? I did this graphic novel. You want to look at it? And he's like, oh, I love it. He's like, and then he had a bunch of ideas. He's like, oh, I have this other story I'm sitting on, Mephisto in the Empty Box. It's about a magician who makes his wife disappear, and then he can't find her. And then I was like, why don't we like put those in the same universe, you know, and then we can collaborate, and then I wasn't published yet, so I was like, let's put the books together, and then we'll take them to San Diego, and then try to get published, you know. And so
Wow, so it's time to make the jump.
yeah, I was like, and I remember telling my wife, I was like, this is it. It was a 120-page graphic novel, uh, and then we did like a 24-page standalone or short story that we did separate that I did with Jason, where he wrote it and I drew it. Um, and then I was like, this is it. We're gonna go to San Diego, get a table there. This is like 2000, so totally different convention than it is now.
Yep.
So we bought a table, and I had mock-ups of the book made. Like took them to Kinko's, got special paper, so it was like it all looked like old newsprint. The color covers had it square bound, and I had 20 copies made. That cost me $100 each to make them. And, and I was like, uh, this is it. Like, I'm gonna do this one time because I think I'm good enough now. This book is good enough to at least get in the door somewhere, you know. So I put together a package with the book, and then I had like little tobacco trading cards with the characters and stuff on the back, like in a little package that I designed, and then I had a little fake cigarette that if you puff on it, like little powder comes out, and then I put my website address on there, and I put that in a little package. So then I had this little envelope with the book and all these little things with it, and like there's a paper doll you could cut out, like that was a character. And I put 20 of these packages together, and then made a list of the publishers. So we had a table there. I tabled, and then went to Dark Horse, went to Fantagraphics, went to um, Top Shelf, and then a few other ones. I didn't go to a lot of them because I knew there's no point in giving this to Marvel or DC or anybody there. There's no, and I'm sure I can't remember what the other publishers were.
Yeah.
Um, Whoever was around at the time, any ones, but I just tried to target ones that could potentially just take this book and publish it. Like it's kind of like what you do, you know. I think at the time, like Fantagraphics was doing Richard Sala's stuff, like the
Yeah.
who I loved. I really love his work.
What a loss to
No,
lose.
it made me feel, I was so upset. I was gonna post something and I was like, I couldn't even do it because he, and I looked up, hold on.
I love Black Cat Crossing. That's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Sorry, it made me upset just now talking about it, but uh, one of the Chuckling What's It or whatever.
Yep.
I remember during this era, like I wrote him a letter and I was like, hey, what are your materials and what color, how do you do the color and everything? And then I still have it. He wrote me, and I bought a piece of his art.
Wow.
And or no, this is how it worked. I asked him all those questions. I was like, hey, I'd like to, you have art for sale? And so he sent me a handwritten letter telling me all about his process and the color and what he does and what he uses. And then with like a little hand copied or a typed up photocopied list of the art he had for sale.
Wow.
And so then I bought like all I could afford is like a little spot PC done for some magazine, you know. It was like with stock market stuff on it. It was like like that's all I could afford. But I bought that and I still had, I found the letter, I still had it where he's telling me how he did everything. And anyway, I don't know how I got on that, but yeah, he was a huge influence too, just because I loved his art and the style and the vibe of it, of the stories.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, he was doing genre material in an artistic,
yeah,
aspect way.
yeah,
That's totally
totally.
in your lane. Yeah.
No, he did. He was in the way he used watercolor and utilized it, you know, like a lot of my DNA is like I trace right back to that, you know. It's like his style is like a rougher style that really appealed to me, you know, and like it has like it could be fine art, you know, you hang it on the wall,
Yep.
you know, stand up to critique.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. So Fantagraphics is putting out Sala, so you drop off a package with them.
yeah. So I dropped that off. I just targeted a few places and then sat at the convention. People would come up and I didn't have anything for sale. We only made a handful of them, you know, so we were just like, we were really there just to talk to the editors, you know,
Yep.
which was also super hard for me because, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. I had to make myself do it though. I was like, this is the only way it gets done, you know, and I don't know how, I don't know anybody in the industry
Yep.
and I have no way in, you know, I don't know how it works. There's no like, I don't have an agent to submit something like
Yep.
agents. Nobody's using agents, you know,
Yeah.
it's a community, which is the thing I love about it was like, especially then it was like approachable. Like you could walk up to um, any of the editors, they're just standing around, you know, and chat them up if you were good at chatting, which I wasn't.
Yeah.
Which is why I overdid the book, the package, because I was like, I can't talk good. Here's my, please look at this thing, you know, like I don't
Yep.
talk well. I'm not good at whatever this is we have to do, this business stuff. Uh, but I think I'm all right at this, you know, just look at it. And I just let it speak for itself. And I remember uh, at the time, Diana Schutz,
Yeah.
she was the editor of Dark Horse I talked to, and I remember her. She looked through it. Yeah,
Let me just jump in and say, Diana is a legend in the business, and she
yeah,
started at Kamiko, and basically when she went to Dark Horse became Frank Miller's editor, and she's an absolute genius. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah. No. I have, to her credit or whatever. I wouldn't be a Dark Horse if it hadn't been for her and everything. But I
Wow.
remember her at the time. She looked at it, and then I went back the next day just to follow up. You know, I don't know. I didn't know what to do, and she'd read the whole thing, and she's like, this is, uh, she says, I love this, but it's too cool for Dark Horse. She told me, and I was like,
Wow.
what does that mean? So she told me, she's like, it's too. I was like, what is that? That's either like that's good, or that's bad, or that's, I don't know what that is. And I told her, she probably doesn't even remember this, but it's like, it's such a big moment for me, you know, because I'm like, I was like, it encouraged me, but I was also like, well, I gotta figure it out, you know, because there's a place for me somewhere. She didn't hate it, you know what I mean? She didn't have to say that. She could have just said, hey, you need to work on drawing hands, you know, or you
Right.
need to be better at this or that, and which she didn't, you know.
And she
Um,
read it.
and she read it, you know, and so that was amazing to me. So we did that, finished up San Diego. It was fun, you know, and then went home. And then literally, it was literally a week later, like it was the end of the week. It's probably like a Friday. Um, uh, I got a call or on the answering machine. This is back when we had answering machines, year 2000.
Yep.
Um, uh, I got a call from Chris Staros, and he's like, "Hey, Matt, this is Chris Staros, Top Shelf." He's like, "Read your book, really loved it. We want to publish it um, as is. We want to publish it." This is the message he left. And I was
Woo!
like, I remember I was in the kitchen listening with my wife, and I was like,
Ha ha ha!
I couldn't believe it. You know, I just couldn't believe it. I was, yeah, it was, and so that was how the pistol came about. They made me redesign the cover. So I redesigned the cover and everything, and they actually gave it to Jeff Smith. He gave me a blurb on my first book,
Woo!
which was like, I can't believe this is happening. And then Chris told me, he's like, don't ever tell anybody this story. He said, because this doesn't happen. This isn't how it works. It doesn't happen, you know. Uh, and I've worked with enough publishers to see where submissions go at conventions. You know, I know what happens to them. I get things
Okay.
like, we don't have to, we don't have to talk about it. But here's what I'll say is, if your if your work is good enough, it won't go into the slush pile or whatever of stuff that doesn't get taken home. So there's still a chance. I would say, don't not do it, but don't rely on it.
I'm going to stay out of this conversation.
Yeah, yeah, no, I even hesitate too because I still get given stuff. And I'm like, who am I? I'm not even a publisher, you know, and it's just like, what do I do with this? Like I have limited space. I got to fly home, my luggage. I've already bought like 100 pounds worth of books, you know, like what am I going to do? Uh, but I will say still, there are a handful of things that were so good. I kept them because I was like, this person, they're going to be something. They're going somewhere, you know, and I'm going to have this thing they made.
Yep.
You know?
And you're a fan at your heart. You love beautiful objects and amazing
Yeah.
stories. So.
Yeah, I know. So if it's something I respond to, I definitely hold on to it, you know. And there's a few things like that that are really great, and I root for the person. But yeah, Saros was like, he's like, don't tell anybody. At the time, he's like, don't say anything, because I don't want people doing that, you know, because it's like it makes you feel bad, and then it's like they don't have time to look at everything, and I don't know why they. I think they read it because of because of the way it looked, the design of it. It looked different, you know. It was like. It wasn't just like photocopies stapled together or like in a folder or something. It was like something more to it. And I think that got me in the door.
But your background as a designer is showing it, right?
Right. Which
So
is like,
that's
you
a
could, you could see my life as a series of happy accidents, which is how I look at it. But I also think if you focus and follow a path, everything makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like I did this to do that, or that resulted because of that. And it's like, well, I think it's just because I had a goal and then try to patch together or figure it out, you know. And so
well, it's the Henry Ford saying, which is the harder I work, the luckier I get.
exactly, that's
So,
exactly it.
and,
Yeah.
and I think what's really important here is, and I would again underline this for the audience, is for aspirational creators, like, you are laser focused. Like you are doing, like you're not taking no for an answer, and you're going to go by hell or high water, you're going to go be a comic book guy. And you did what it took. You looked at your work analytically, and then when you felt you were ready, you put everything in. I mean, 20 copies at $100 a crack, you put 2 grand into it, and 2000, that's real money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I would I would pay $2,000 out of my pocket to put in a presentation for Netflix. So And so you put your heart and your soul into this thing, and you drive across the country, and you go get a booth, and you do the work, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a. I just feel like if you're gonna do it, all the way, do it. You know, it's like I don't want to. And there's 2 points in my career where I was like, I've told myself I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna do it with everything I've got, and if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna find something else. You know, so that was the first time it happened, and it happens later. We'll get to it,
All right.
but
Well, and just one last editorialization on this phase is I think there's a lot of creative people that do not apply themselves. And then that gives them the license to fail. And so they always go, well, I should have put together a fancy package and then maybe somebody would have paid attention to it. And like here, you're putting all your chips on the table. Like you have left no aspect of this to chance, and it pays off. And I think that that's what happens when you apply yourself is, people respond to passion and they respond to a perspective. And you paid attention to the publishers, so you weren't dropping off your packet with Marvel. I can't tell you how many times I've been handed something, and I thought, oh my God, have you ever looked at anything I ever published? Right? And the
uh,
answer is
yeah,
no, they haven't looked at it. And I have this joke with my wife, which we go back and forth with, which is, the phrase is, it never hurts to ask. Well, it actually does. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure the audience, if they think about it, somebody asks you a really tone deaf question, it makes your opinion of them go down,
yeah,
And so being careful and specific and thinking about it and like doing the research, and you're driving to San Diego with a list of publishers, and you know who they are and you know what they do, and you're approaching the right people. I mean, you approached Top Shelf, it's the right person. So,
yeah. No, it's true because especially like if you put everything you've got into it, and like the books were expensive, the whole thing, I was like, I can't, I'm not going to shotgun this thing all over the place, like because it doesn't, like I don't have the money to do it. Also, it doesn't matter. Like, why would I drop it off at Marvel? Like there's no zero chance. There's a chance an editor would look at it and be like, oh, this is cool, but what can they do? Like that.
yeah,
My goal is to get a book published. I was like, I want one book published in my whole life, and then that'll be it. Then we'll go from there.
yeah.
Whatever happens after that happens. I didn't have a plan. After that first book was published, I literally I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? It's like, I told my wife, I was like, maybe I should have set a higher goal, like a goal that was higher. I don't know what to do. So like,
Oh,
I spent the next 20 years like trying to figure out what another goal was.
well, this is fascinating. So you've set a goal to publish a graphic novel, but you haven't set a goal to do it for a living.
No, I didn't think that was possible. I really didn't. I was like, I wanted to set a realistic goal. I was like, well, this is doable. And I don't think there's not a lot of money in comics. It's really hard to make a living. Like, I don't know how you do it outside of Marvel and DC at the time. I didn't see the, I didn't see the model for doing it, unless you're somebody at Marvel that creates image, it's like, there's nobody to pattern myself after. Like everybody I knew or everybody I followed was doing something else. There's a handful of like Dan Cloud, Chris Ware. They would do illustration, I guess, to
Gotcha.
make a living. But the comics weren't making their living,
Yeah.
and I was like, I didn't have an interest in doing anything besides comics. Um, and if I was going to do something else to make a living, design's easy. I can just sit there and work half days.
Right.
But
So what do you do? So Top Cow puts the book out, and I remember it got notice. I
yeah,
remember the book coming out.
it got published in 2001, and then it was like Time Magazine top 10 book of the year. Got nominated for some Eisners, and it was like it really was like you couldn't have. It was ridiculous. I went to the Eisners, and we didn't win or anything, but I was like, wow,
Dude,
first
you got
year.
to the Eisners.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was crazy, and it was super encouraging, and I remember, so 2000 I went, to to try to get published. And 2001 was my first convention as a published creator, you know, and I sat at the Top Shelf booth and I was in San Diego and I was like, this is awesome. And I was all excited. And then I sit at the booth for my first signing, you know, there's nobody's there, you know, it's huge hall, people walking by, nobody cares. You know, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I set my goal. I've done my goal, right? I was like, I feel like I need another goal. I need a new goal. And then, but you know, you sell a handful and then, and Starhouse is like, hey, don't worry about it. You know, it's your first book. Like, nobody comes out the gate, like first, especially that first year. And then I realized like the other half of the job is making the book. The other half of the job is going to conventions and describing what your book is to people, you know, and then, and all the ways that that happens. So now it's like, it's not just conventions, it's like online and then, you know, and promoting PR and marketing and everything. It's like you, and Top Shelf is small enough publisher where I took a hand in the marketing and the promotion of the book because it's just really, it was two guys, you know, one guy's designing, putting the books together and the other guy's editing everything. And it's like, there's no marketing department. So I was like, oh, I got this. I love making covers for my book reports, you know, so look,
Right.
for my book report.
Yeah.
So it was, to me, it was a good place to be because it taught me that it's like, just because you have a published book and it's on, you can buy it at the bookstore, doesn't mean anything. Like that's half the job. Now you got to do the other part, which is the hardest part. Comics is easy. It's everything else that for me is hard, you know, like the social part of it and then the talking to strangers part of it. And it probably took me 10 years to be comfortable sitting down at a show and not dreading and I don't not hating it because it's all positive, right? Anybody that comes up to talk to you, it's never like you suck or I'm not writing a Spider-Man story that they hated. So like if they come up, it's all positive. So um, after years of that, you start to realize, oh, this is nothing's going to go wrong, and then I can talk about these books because it's the only thing I'm an expert on, you know. Just like this, us talking, I'm like I didn't have to do any research for me. I remember what I did. I know what I've done, you know. I didn't do research for you, but anything else. Um,
Well, I think, you know, just a quick sidebar is, you know, as you talk about selling your book and the professional usefulness of that, you know, even at a bare minimum, if you do interviews and you have a journalist or reporter asking you questions about your old work or your new work, you've got to be able to understand how to communicate that. And
yeah.
I think one of the most powerful ways to do that is to go to a convention, get a table, and then people walk up and you have to explain what your work is.
You're right. Like, what's funny is like I've been doing interviews for my new books this year. You know, it's like we've done some BRZRKR ones, and then Crimson Flower, and then a couple with Dark Horse. I'm not going to try to plug everything.
No, no, no. I like
But,
like let's talk about Dark Horse. I'm cool.
no, well, that's so yeah. Crimson Flower launched this week, and in the interview, I was like, the first question is always like, describe for a new reader that doesn't know about it. Tell me about it. I'm like, which is the worst interview question. I hate that one because it's like two reasons. One is I was like, I like it when somebody just writes that for me, like describe it, and then ask me other questions. You know, the other reason I hate it is because I haven't until I've been to like two or three conventions
Mm.
and have people talk to me about the book. I don't know what the book's about. Like I don't know how to describe it. You know, it like takes that uh like I know what I did and why I did it and what it is, but like distilling that into like a paragraph of like, hey, sell me on this book. I was like, it takes work. It takes practice for me to get that down, you know, and conventions really help do that. That's why that with Pistol Whip, that first book at that convention, people were like, oh, tell me what this is about. They were honestly, they liked the way it looked. They wanted to know about it. And I was just like, um, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to say those words. But then, so I had to get better at it. It's like I realized that I don't like this part of the job. I'm uncomfortable with it. But if I'm going to do this, I need to be good at it. I need to be more fun to talk to, or at least not off-putting. My goal was not to be like entertaining or like, who's that guy? I'm gonna talk. He's fun to talk to. I just was trying to not turn people off.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm trying to think about what's the next milestone? Because I want to touch on Law Scrolls, but then I want to get to three stories.
Yeah, no, this is really like the era of top shelf. So I've done Pistol Whip, and then I had a parting of ways with Jason, my collaborator on that. And then which didn't whatever it is what it is. I think we're both getting into comics, and it's like, hey, this is what I want to do, and then he had an idea of what he wanted to do, and I was like, I guess we're gonna go do our things then, because I had a. So we did. So my next book was Two Sisters, sold about the same as Pistol Whip, and then it was all right, did all right. Um, and then what was the next book after that? Was that, gosh, I can't remember. We did a sequel to Pistol Whip. There was two Pistol Whip books,
Right.
and then I did Two Sisters. Um, and I can't even remember my own bibliography right now. But I think Three Story was I think that, no, Super Spy. How could I forget?
Super Spy.
Oh my gosh.
Lord, I fire both of us.
I only spent a year working on it, so how would I forget?
What a great book, Super Spy. Wow.
It was but that was so the arc was this. It's like two Pistol Whip books and Two Sisters, and they don't sell. They print like 2,000 copies, and they don't sell out. So it's like, okay, two Staros's credit and Top Shelf, they believed in me, like they liked my work, right? And they thought I was worthwhile, so they would publish anything I wanted to do, knowing that they're gonna break even. They're not making any money off me, but I guess they saw potential or whatever it was. But I took then after Two Sisters, I was like, what's going on here? I need to figure something out, or just do it in a different way. And at the time, I was still working a day job at the Sporting News. I was doing design during the day, and then working in Two Sisters. I was writing it. I was writing it there, and then I was going home or thumbnailing it at my desk, and then going home and drawing it. And then I remember my our daughter was born during that the creation of that book, right? So Two Sisters was happening, and I'm trying to get this book finished, and she's born, and I'm inking Two Sisters, and there was one day where I was like literally like I figured out a way to hold the bottle, prop the bottle, feed her the bottle, and finish this page I had to finish or whatever, and I was like, I remember when I was doing it, I was like, I'm gonna remember this forever, because this is really hard, and it's also kind of fun, and it's like I got this little kid, and then I'm working at comics, and I'm like, this is what I love it. I loved it, and I was like, I'm gonna forever remember this. And I finished that book, and then I got laid off from the Sporting News, and then I was like, I got to do. And so I had to sort of figure it out. I was like, what am I going to do here? I can't. I got a kid, and I'm doing comics in my spare time. I don't have spare time anymore. And so my wife still she was an art director, so she still had a steady job. And I was like, okay. And then the true secret to everything is having her be super supportive. Like, we both went to art school. She's an artist too. She gets it. She gets everything, the drive to do it, and art and story and writing, and and she had taken the path she was wanting to take at the time. And I was like, if you're okay doing that, then I'm going to take a year and just try to do comics full time, treat it like a job, and then see what happens.
Wow.
I didn't have a contract with Top Shelf. I was like, I'm going to do Super Spy as a weekly comic. I'm going to do 8-page short stories every week for a year.
Ooh,
And then when I'm done, I'll have a giant book, you know, and then and then this is before like web comics were just kind of like starting, and the internet was still kind of janky, and it was hard to build websites, and so it was kind of hard. Um, and I just so I was doing that. I held myself to 8 pages a week for a year, you know, and then I was just doing like spy stories set in World War II, and then I do enough research that you think it would be hard to write that many, but World War II was so all encompassing. It was a world war, so you could go anywhere.
yep.
Um, so it just made it was really inspiring. I was like, I could tell anybody's story in any part of the world, and just play with the medium, and 8 page chunks was just right. I could write pencil, ink, color, letter, scan it in, produce it all. I could do 8 pages a week, and it
Wow.
taught me to be uh, focus, and like and then be judicial with my time, and then and just don't waste any time. And I was like, I know I got a year to make this work, you know, and we'll see how it goes. And I ended up this is the same time that PlayStation, they had this little portable video game machine, PlayStation PSP portable, whatever it was. um
ESP.
and yeah, and then to this um until this time, I had made a pact with my wife when we were married. I was like, don't ever let me buy a video game machine, because because I know that I'll be addicted to video games. My brother, he had he had the Nintendo 64, and then he had the first Xbox, and so I would go over there and play Halo or whatever, and we played till 3 in the morning, and I'm like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is a
This is
problem.
bad.
It's a real problem. So
Yep.
I made her, I was like, I don't care what I tell you, I don't care what promises I make, don't ever let me buy a video game machine.
Yep.
Um, so but the PlayStation, the little one had come out, and I'd had Game Boys before, and they were little, and they're not addictive. It's kind of like games when I was a kid. They're not good enough that I can play them for more than half hour. And so the PlayStation came out, and I was like, hey, please let me get this. It's not a video game machine. It's still like a Game Boy. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna format the Super Spy stories to fit that screen. And then at the time, PlayStation needed content because they were trying to sell it as like you can watch movies and read magazines on it, and I was like, I'll do a comic book that you click through panel, 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 um, and then link through there. And I got like tons of, when I say tons, I probably got like 5 to 10,000 downloads a week, like
Wow.
by the end of it, off the PlayStation's their website where they put the stuff.
Yep.
So like I had a pretty good audience to the point where I would get emails if I was late a week, or I would post on Mondays, right? But if it was on Wednesday, I would hear about it. This is like pre web comics, so
Right.
everybody who does web comics now, I'm sure, knows what that's like.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing, hey, this isn't costing you anything. Like, don't don't hassle me. It's going to be up on Wednesday instead of Monday, and it's still free. You know?
Yep.
But it was good because it kind of like sparked me to be like, hey, like people are reading it, you know, people are following it, people are responding and liking it and everything. So it was the first time I was getting like direct feedback as I was doing a thing, you know, which is kind of fun. Um,
That's amazing.
yeah, so that was a lot of work, but it really was just like a trial by fire as far as like doing 8 pages a week. You know, it was a brutal schedule, and then my wife is always like, why do you do that? Why do you set those deadlines? Like nobody's really asking for it. Top Shelf, then I didn't have a contract. They weren't, and I was like, because if I don't set it for myself, I just won't do it. I have to be set a deadline and then hit it, you know. And it's like, even if it's just me setting the deadline, it's like I have to have that like goal so I can you know, get to.
Well,
Um,
well, that's something, it's another variation on the mini comic model, right? And it's a self-starter kind of framework for you. And
yeah,
so I think that sort of conscientiousness is very critical, and I also think you're very sharply aware that you're iterating. And so your creative voice each time you do a work gets better, and it's about the process for you. And so, I'm going to create this parameter, which is 8 pages a week, and I'll get better and I'll do more and I'll just, click my way up.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a very, creating that kind of structure for yourself in those levels, level of expectation is, very, very smart, good structure, you know.
Yeah, no, it's what I really, it's just grinding away at it, like I'm not, what I mean? I realized I'm never gonna be, I'm not Alex Ross. I'm not gonna have art that is like, you see it, everybody wants it, you know what I mean? And it's, at a certain point, I don't stop caring about it. I was like, I don't want to, I can paint a photorealistic painting. I don't want to, and I
Yeah,
definitely want to do a whole book worth of it because the other half of me is I have like 1,000 stories I want to tell. So like painting it that way or doing art that's like commercially whatever. It's This isn't a lot. It's just time. It's economics and time. Like I'm
painstaking.
getting older. Yeah, it's like I would rather. To me, it's more important to tell the stories and have the art help tell the story than it is to have this art that you enjoy flipping through. But there's it's surface, and it's and I'm not knocking any of this. Alex Ross is amazing. I love I love looking at art. Like I
Right,
love art. So I have nothing. For me, there's another half of my brain that's burning away with stories, and I
right.
won't be able to get to them if I do that. So I have to make a choice.
You have these ideas that you want to fulfill upon, and that the craft that Alex puts into his work is very painstaking and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
It's like, how do you get to all these ideas? And the way that you do it is you create a framework and a mode of operating that facilitates how prolific you want to be. And
yeah,
so you got to make choices, and at that juncture, you're like, hey, fully painted watercolor to the nines, like Alex, it's not something that I feel like I have the time to burn. And
yeah,
so, and it's also not a lane that you want to be in where it's like that kind of representational or colloquially realistic art style is not necessary in the world that you want to be in. If you don't want to be in superheroes, the superhero artists want more and more realistic.
yeah,
Generally speaking, there's obvious exceptions. But it's like you're like, hey, I can go over here and find my own space, and I'm going to sort of iterate my framework to the point where it facilitates my creativity, and that's being prolific.
yeah, yeah. No, it's totally true. And as many comics as we've read, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, is like I'll pick up a book where the art isn't necessarily appealing, like because definitely a hater, and I never express it. I just like, eh. But I'll pick up books sometimes where I'm like, the art, I was like, boy, I don't, and then 5 or 6 pages in, I forgotten all about like if the storytelling is there and the story is good, the art the art all of a sudden is like it like it's like going from black and white to color. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's just like and I wish I could tell you which books I think like uh Hate is one of those where it's just like it can be off-putting if you look at it. It's like that's crazy, it's kind of hard once you start reading it. It's like it's really funny and like crazy. And then trying to think of somebody else. I'm trying to name
Well,
uh,
like I think a good
something newer.
well like a good example of that is like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Yeah.
because Kev O'Neill has a really distinct style. Now, I was familiar with Nemesis the Warlock, and
Mhm.
so I knew his style.
Yeah.
But when League hits and there's all these sort of like more conventional Watchmen fans that go to buy that book, they're scared. And then when you get into it, it's unimaginable that anybody else would do that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, you think about Hyde, you think about Invisible Man, all these characters that are so distinctly Ted O'Neill. and you really understand why he's so great, you know?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's just like yeah, it's inseparable from the story once you start reading it. But you got to get in. That's the thing, is like there's a little hurdle that you got to get in the door. You know, I've I don't know how many times I've loaned out from Hell with Eddie Campbell, who I put in the same
Hey,
category. That
oh,
guy is an artist. Like
that's,
you know what I mean? He can do anything, you know, and he does it in a certain style. And it's like I loan out from Hell, and then it's like, and I get a little, I was like, no, 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 just start reading it. Like, because it's like, to me, it's like handwriting. It's like the art is the story, and it's as much as part of the, as the words are. And the art starts to disappear, and you start to just, you fall into it, you know. And I think ultimately that's what I was trying to do, is just be, I was like, I know that's probably the place I can be, where people will just fall into it, and I can tell as many stories as I want to tell and get them done, you know.
I love it. All right. So, Super Spy. So
Yeah.
you've got a year, eight
Super Spy,
issues.
and then and then I take it to Top Shelf when it's done, because the plan is, it's like, oh, I know Top Shelf, I haven't talked to them, but I know they'll publish it because they super supportive, you know, my whole career. So it's done, and I was like, hey, Chris, I've got this book, and he's like, great, let's do it. You know, so I chopped down. There was a lot. I did a story every week, so there was a lot that was like, it doesn't make sense as a book, so it was kind of fun to go back and edit and make it like a movie where you shoot too much, right? You know, it's like, oh,
Yep.
I got to chop an hour out of this thing.
Yep.
So it was kind of fun to do that and sort of remix it. So I did that, and that book did well. It's the first book that sold out, you know, and then it was good because I spent that year. I was like, I got to make some money, so I actually saw some money off of it.
There you go.
Conventions, conventions were more fun. People were buying it. It was like selling out at shows. They reprinted it, and then they reprinted it again, you know. And so I was like, oh, I was like, finally, it only took like four books, you know, and tons of going to conventions. But all of that helped, like going to shows every year, getting people that knew me, and they would come back the next year. Oh, what do you got? What's the new thing? You know, it's like it's, if you just keep grinding away at it, it starts to pay off just by sheer uh, sweat, your sweat equity. You
Yep.
know,
10,000 hours. It's the
yeah, yeah,
Gladwell, you know,
yeah.
takes 10,000 hours to be good at anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I was getting there. I felt like Super Spy was like where the first breakthrough, where I was happy with the art, like the final product, the art I was still happy with after it was printed, you know, and then felt like I'd done some interesting things in it that I hadn't seen before, and um and so from there I was like, okay, well, I leveled up. I'm gonna try to pitch a book to Diana at Dark Horse, you know, and I took three story to her at SPX. I remember I was at SPX and she was there, because, and that's, you know what I mean? And finding an editor at SPX, that's the editor you want to talk to, right? Because they're plugged into, like, that's the ground level of comics. That's where all
Yep.
the great stuff like grows out of, you know. And
Yep.
so for her to be there, but I remember I pitched her three story, we talked about it, and then made the deal there or whatever. For she's like, ah, well, let's do it, you know.
Wow.
And so that was my first Dark Horse book, and which is, it's such a weird book to me. That book, uh, I realized while I was doing it, I realized it, but I was like, oh, this is like every comic book creator that has a baby or has a kid, they have their book they did because of it, or you know what I mean? Like it's their, I'm having a kid book, you
Yep.
know. That was my having a kid book, and I know, like, I would sit by Jeffrey Brown all the time, and I remember when he had a kid, he had his kid book, and then Lemire, you know, when he had his kid, he had his kid book, and so
Yep.
everybody's, I can recognize it. I don't know if people do, but I was like, I know where that book's coming from because I did one too.
Well, your world changes, right? You know,
Yeah,
the very structure of your world changes, and it
yeah.
changes in a way that it'll never unchange. You know?
Yeah, no, it's true. So it was partly that, and partly all the books I'd done up until then. My wife, who doesn't realize, she only reads my comics, you know, and even those, some of them she's like, she'll get around to reading it, you know. Part of it is, and because I talk about it all the time. So she already knows everything that's happening in it. She gets it, you know, and super supportive. So I don't blame her. I don't want her to, you know, it's like, but that was a book I actually did. I was like, I want to do a book that she would, if she was walking by the convention table, she would stop and pick it up and read it and like it. You know, I was like, I'm going to do a book kind of for her. Um, and then, because part of it too was like years of, I don't know what year that was at this point, I've lost track, but years of
That's
going to
2000,
convention.
I think that's like 2009.
Yeah, right. So it's been like 8 years maybe I've been going to conventions, and you see guys come up and they have their bored girlfriend or their wife that's there because they're dragged along to the thing. And I'm like, oh, I hate that. I was like, where's the they need to be excited, but then you look around and it's like there's nothing to be excited about here. Like there's
Yep.
things to be offended by here, and and then that's the other thing is like my wife coming to these conventions, you immediately the things that I'm blind or I'm just or in a blind spot, she's like, that's gross, and I was like, yeah, that is. I've just seen it my whole, you know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
cosplay after a while, where you, a person that's never been to a convention, they're like, oh my God. You're just like, you can't imagine what you're used to at this point. Like I'm not, Doctor Strange walks by and I'm like, he's like the 10th Doctor Strange I've seen today. Like it doesn't even affect you, you know? So like, I think that led to that book, you know, and me wanting to do something that she would care about, you know, or something that she would enjoy. And it's her favorite book. I haven't done a book better than that.
Wow, nice. Well, ringing the bell with the spouse is a big career achievement. I mean,
Yeah,
many people go through their whole career and haven't done something that their spouse loves. So,
no, it's great. It's the only piece of original art that she has of my stuff hanging up somewhere.
wow. So you know because you're there in the house that she
Yeah,
actually likes it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's maybe my greatest achievement.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so let's see. I think our we're going to go to Vertigo, and then I think we got to go to Mind Management.
Yeah. So Three Story came out and it sold well, but again it was like I'm barely like if my wife doesn't have her day job, we're not sustaining ourselves, you know. So she has insurance and she's making enough money that the little money I have is like, yeah, extra money. Not like, hey, we're living off this.
Yep.
Um, but then yeah, so Vertigo, uh, Lemire had gone over to Vertigo and he had started Sweet Tooth. And I was like, yeah, God, I was like, I want to do a monthly comic, you know, because Sweet Tooth had come out and we were kind of parallel. Like we came in around the same time and we had kind of parallel trajectory and we're friends. So we're always talking about like, what do you
Well,
think we should do? At this point, we're conspiring, you know?
well, like spend a little bit of time on that because I know y'all are close. So how did you meet? And then what did you're kind of really similar, but you're also from very different backgrounds. So what was sort of the germination of the relationship?
Yeah, we met at Mocha in New York, and I don't remember the year. It was the year Two Sisters had come out. It was that book had come out, and he was there at Mocha at a table, and then he walked over and picked up my book and bought it, and he's like, "Hey, I'm over there," one of those kinds of things, and I
Yep.
was like, "Oh, okay," and so I was like, "I'll go check out your stuff," and so I went over there, and he had God, I can't remember the name of it, the one with the red and white striped shirt guy. It was his first mini comic.
Right.
I can't remember the name of it. Somebody will know. And if you're watching this, put in the comments what the title of that book is. And don't forget to hit like. um, but yeah, anyway, I'll think of it later. Anyway, I went over there and I was like, oh, and it was like of all the stuff at Mocha, I was like, I responded to his book because I just like the art style and like I find out later like he's a huge fan of Dave McKean and like you know what I mean, we liked all the same things and we were trying to achieve certain things similar. So I think he saw himself in me and then when I saw his I was like, oh, this kind of looks like my liquid paper stuff like that I'd done like the a year before.
Yep.
And I was like, I love it. You know, it's just like sort of scratchy fine art, heavy inks and real rough and everything. And then the story looked kind of sad. And I was like, yeah, I dig this. And so we just,
Instant kinship.
yeah, and then we just kept in touch. And then he was like, Top Shelf's publishing my book next year, Essex, which was Essex County.
Yep.
Um, and so I was like, oh, great. We have this. So we share a publisher even,
Yep.
and, uh, and so then we would naturally, we were just together all the time because we were going to every convention and sitting at Top Shelf, and we just hit it off, and we kind of broke in at the same time, and uh, and it was nice. It was nice to have somebody like a coworker. That's the one thing comics doesn't have unless you're in an office is coworkers. So sitting at a table with somebody all the time and comparing notes and like sharing experiences with publishers and editors and it's invaluable and we just but anyway so that's kind of how I got into Vertigo is he had relationship with Bob Schreck was editing Sweet Tooth
Yep.
and then
Great.
he introduced me, yeah, and Bob's great. And then Sweet Tooth had just started and I was like, oh great, I want to do this book Revolver. It'll be a great series and everything. And so when I pitched it, um, I guess I'd missed the little window. So they're like, he's like, yeah, we're trying to do only original graphic novels now. We're not launching any more series. So I was like, damn it. I was like,
Oh,
I was like, but he really liked Revolver, so I was like, I'll do it as a graphic novel. And then I was like, how am I going to do this as a graphic novel? Because it was epic. The thing I pitched was like, I wanted to do like a Sweet Tooth 3-year thing, where it was just, and then, and I was like, I don't know how. I told him that because uh, I wanted the great page rate,
yep.
and I wanted to do a graphic novel, and I wanted to work with Vertigo and work with Bob, who's a legend. And
Yep.
and so I was like, I'll figure it out. And so I did. I went back and I rewrote the pitch, and then worked on some test pages and figured out I could do a 3-year series in a 160-page graphic novel if I use the bottom of the pages, so that there's a news scroll at the bottom like a Chiron, and I put all the subplots, all the background, everything that was going to be in the series. I put it in the bottom like as
Wow.
almost like bullet points. It's like it would have been a whole arc in the series, but I did it as like 3 sentences. But I ran that across the whole bottom, and then figured out that I could incorporate the page numbers into the text in a clever way. Like I would spell two a different way, or like three. So I actually put the page numbers in with the text, so it's like a subliminal line across the whole book. And he liked that, and they did the book, and so that's why I didn't get a series. I got the graphic novel, which is all right.
Well, that's a huge moment because now in the journey to, pay the bills, right?
Yeah,
Vertigo's real, right?
yeah.
So,
No, it was the biggest page rate. It was the first page rate I'd ever gotten. Up until then, I'd gotten book deals, so you get an advance, and then you get money, and then you get royalties or whatever. But with this, it was the first time I got a page rate every time I turned in pages. And what was great is I was writing it, so I was getting writing page rate, and then I was penciling it. They were paying me for pencils, and then they were paying me for inks. I'm like, wait a second, this is a racket. I'm doing everything. This is so it ended up doing. It was great. It was the first time I truly could say I was like making a living. Super Spy paid well enough where we could have like subsisted on it. So I technically was making a living off of Super Spy, but Revolver was the one where I was like, okay, now we don't have to worry about money for a year. You know,
wow,
um,
it's big. It's big.
yeah, no, it was good. It was good, and so after that, I was still wanting to do a series. And so I'm like, God, I really want to, Revolver was going to be that thing. And I was like, I really want to do a limited series, or not a limited series. I want to do an ongoing monthly book. Um, and by that time, uh, they were doing some series again. They were done with doing the original graphic novels. So I had a little window, right? So I pitched Mind Management to Vertigo, and Bob was gone by then. Um, and so I pitched it, and one of the editors there loved it, but it wouldn't. Uh, Another editor didn't get it, because It was freaking weird. It's my management. So it was like, it was really hard to pitch that as a series and get people to see what it was going to be in a pitch form, you know, and how crazy it was going to be. And so they were like, we don't know about this one. Um, so I was like, well, I guess that's it. So I, I talked to, and I didn't even approach Dark Horse because I was like, they're not doing like, I want to do 5-year series, monthly book. And then it was like, that's not their model. They don't do it, you know? Um, and I was like, and I'm kind of tired of graphic novels. I wanted to try this. And then, and I really don't know. We still had enough money off Revolver where I was like, I didn't have to decide right away. And then out of the blue, I got a call from Mike Richardson.
Wow.
Like,
Now
he,
let's talk about who Mike Richardson is. He's the
yeah,
founder of Dark Horse, and he's
yeah,
the head cheese. And so
yeah,
that's a huge deal, just like a lightning bolt out of nowhere. So,
yeah. It was weird. It made me nervous when he called. I was like, what happened? What's going on? Like, why? I don't
uh-oh.
ever, I don't ever talk to you. I talk to Diana. I don't talk to you. Like you're the whatever. But and it was but he's like, I want to. How come we're not doing your next book? Because he had seen I guess Revolver come out and everything, and then
Mhm.
because I had gone to Vertigo, and then he was like, why aren't we doing it? And I was like, well, I was like, I have a 5-issue monthly series I want to do, and then you guys just don't do that. And he's like, no, no, no. Let's make. We're gonna do it. What do you want 5 years monthly? Let's do it. And I was like, what? And so he told Diana, and Diana's like, and then we're doing it. And this is right before Diana kind of like semi-retired from Dark Horse. So she was there to kind of launch it, and then was gone after that. But yeah,
Well,
Mike,
just one of the things as a sidebar about Mike, who is a real pioneer and a tremendous talent, over and over and over again, he does that. He goes straight to the creator, he hears what the creator's vision is, and he backs it. And I think that's one of the reasons why Dark Horse is such a seminal, important company in comics and in the history of comics. I mean, the company's been around for 35 years.
yeah,
And
no, you. So I mean, look at the list of people I'm talking about right now. Like they're all Hall of Famers. It's like Chris Saros, Diana, Mike. They're all, you know what I mean. They're going to be the Lifetime Achievement Eisner people. You know,
yep,
and I was lucky enough to, whatever, try to break in. I was at the right age and to break in at the right time, and to get to work with these people, and to have Mike call me up like that. It was just like a shot out of the blue. I was like, I had nowhere to go, you know. And I think um, I hadn't gotten the final no from Vertigo yet when he called me, but I was like, I'm gonna send him the thing, send him the pitch, and I sent him the full pitch, but it was already approved as long as it wasn't something ridiculous, you know. I mean, it was ridiculous. I can't believe they approved it, but what's funny is like when they actually greenlit a 5-year series for me to do monthly, and then as soon as they greenlit it, I was like, I'm not doing 5 years. I'm not doing it. So I redid the outline. I was like, I think I can do everything in 3 years, do a 3-year series, and I think that's doable. And I think it'll just make every issue jam packed. So I took something big and I condensed it, you know, put 2 years, fit 2 years into it, and
there's a lot to be said by that.
yeah,
I was looking at it again last night, and that inside front cover where you start off in World War One, and then it's continued on the inside back cover, and going to and then you start the story, and you're in the plane, and nobody knows why they're there. I remember so vividly looking at the cover for that book in solicitations and knowing exactly what it was. Like, I knew, like, I had been tracking you, had been watching you, and there's something about that cover, the way that her brain is exposed
yeah,
and the style, and it's just it's like lightning, at least to me. of like, I was like, I know the milieu that you're in. And, you know, like now that we sort of circle up on it, it's the Philip K. Dick of it, you know, and
Yeah.
it's also sort of the World War II spy. I mean, you and I are both Cold War babies. And so it's that sensibility, you know, and it's that by way of The Prisoner, right? It's like, it's that kind of strange spy-fi, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get my hands on this.
No, I'm so glad I look at that cover for one, and I want to redraw her face.
That
Like
just means you're an artist.
I
There's
love
an artist that
I
doesn't.
don't think that because it's funny is like I have enough ego where like I can look at some of those covers and be like, I nailed it. Like they can't be better. Some of those there's 36 covers. So there's like a handful of them where I'm like, it's exactly what I wanted and it came out exactly how I wanted it to be. That first cover, the way her eyes are, I'm gonna ruin it.
Oh,
But
no, you don't get to touch it, man. That you don't
I
get
know
to touch that
I
cover.
won't ever do it. I would never do that because I don't believe in it. I feel like it is like that cover is like I remember where I was when I drew it, and I
Yep.
could see all the layers of I drew an ad. I was trying to get it right, and I worked so hard on it and everything. So I'll never change it because to me, it's an artifact of me at that point in time, you know. Um, but yeah, that series to me was like, and this is the beginning of like to me the final stage of my career. Like that's the beginning of the end. Like
The beginning of the
otherwise,
present.
I don't know what you know. Man, it is what it is now and everything. We'll get to it, but to me that was like this is like it's the next level up, and I don't know that there's a level past it. You know, it's like I'm gonna be in this swimming in this area, you know, until I stop doing comics probably. But
So Matt is so much fun. I just love that guy so much. We're going to have a third part to this interview going up next. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe, and be sure to come back for more Matt Kindt interview content. Thank you so much.